Welcome to Marketing MASH, brought to you by themarketingscope.com.
Welcome. So today I have a special guest with us. We have Karla Spormann, founder and CEO of Tindo Communications out of San Francisco, one of my favorite cities in the world. Welcome, Karla.
Hi, Eric.
So for those who don't know who Tindo Communications is, they are a firm that focuses heavily on content marketing, and it's everything from content creation to strategy to distribution. And so, Karla, I know you've worked with a lot of different companies in the Valley and across the world, and I want to, we've had some conversations in the past, and I know that one of them is around event support, creating the right content for social media event support at events. And so, first of all, what does that mean? And then the second of all, first of all, what does that mean? Just for the folks that need a clear definition.
Sure, that's a great question. So essentially, we find our clients use live events, for customers and prospects, and spend a great deal of money to drive attendance, both attendance and participation at these events. So social channels are important to them, both in terms of generating attendance and excitement in advance of an event, but also communicating the value of what is being shared and frankly capturing, mind share and bandwidth in the Twitter sphere or on social channels during the event and then after, sustaining the momentum that they have hopefully developed live and in person through content afterwards. So social content as it relates to events is really kind of encompassing the before, during, and after of an event, and how you use both content and then distribute it on social channels to support those aspects of what you're doing.
Do you find that a lot of companies either tend to delay or wait too long to address what kind of content they're going to create to leverage in their social media channels right before the event, or even during the event, right? I mean, I know some companies that tend to maybe address this the day or two before the event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it is not uncommon for companies to wait too long, and obviously content content created especially for social channels can do a lot to drive registration and attendance at an event. So the farther in advance you plan, the more impact you can have just in terms of the crowd that you turn out and the quality of attendance. But another common problem is the issue of really integrating the team that is planning sessions and or the content that's going to be shared and disseminated at a live event, really bridging the gap between that team and the team that is really talking and promoting the event in social channels, because essentially what we find most often is a real silo between the two groups, and so it limits the effectiveness of really promoting and bringing forth the value of what's to come in the event, both before and certainly sometimes after.
So what are two or three things that you can recommend to our audience? I mean, obviously one is to work with Tindo Communications and have you guys come in and help from a strategic standpoint from the beginning, the middle, and the end. But what are two or three things that they can do if they don't have, your agency to help them?
Sure. There's a lot they can do whether or not they use an agency. The reality is one of the biggest opportunities that I think we see is companies spend a lot of money. Let's use Dreamforce as an example. And frankly, their social media coverage, the coverage for social media during Dreamforce is pretty strong. But we see a real opportunity for companies of all stripes to really isolate a couple of key moments or, kind of high value content aspects of an event and continue to distribute that content in a meaningful way well after the event. In other words, so much time, energy, money is created in preparing presentations and thinking through, really important issues to discuss. And there's so much momentum and build up both to the event and then a lot of, hubbub and activity during the event. But really, I think one tip is think about what you can do with the material that's being disseminated afterwards to keep the momentum going, to kind of leverage social channels to keep, building audience and awareness and visibility for your brand or for your company well after the event itself. So that's one thing. I think another tip is really think about not just, so often clients and I think marketers fall into the trap, and certainly we have too, where you think about social media in terms of the channels, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, but what you're not thinking about is the fact that in order to leverage those channels, you really need to have kind of carefully created and edited material that is best suited for that particular channel. So take the time to not only invest in using the channels as distribution points and to broadcast, but really take the time to create material that is differentiated, that captures the value, and that is uniquely suited to the channel itself, right? And I think companies sometimes just start going without a lot of kind of a ready, fire, aim approach, as opposed to really thinking through, what are we going to talk about? How are we going to create this material? How can we sustain that? And then let's push it out through these channels to grab the audience that we want to, whose attention we want to grab.
Yeah, and I like the way you said, you're focused on after the event. Mm-hmm. I've been guilty of this, and I've worked for some of my teams in the past have been guilty of this. But I always try to tell them, focus on the before, the during, and don't forget the after. Because when you have an event, everyone is all they want to do is grab all their tchotchkes, throw them away, and pack up the trade show booth or whatever materials they have, ship it, get on the plane, and that's the last thing they want to talk about is the event, because they have to go catch up on email and follow up on a report, a presentation they got to do the next day, or what have you, right? Or some people are even heading off for a long weekend and to go relax. But that's fine. That's fine to do that, but you have to get back in line, whether it be an hour later or a day later. Get back in line and focus on the content and the conversations that you were having during that event.
Yeah, that's right. And elevate and spotlight and, both amplify but reinforce the best of what happened. Put, your own kind of press coverage on it. What are the key takeaways? And I think, event marketing teams so much pressure is put on them to both produce a great event in the moment, but also to drive the type of attendance that they're expected to drive. And their KPIs could be enhanced even further if they could demonstrate what kind of mileage they're getting post-event. And that's easy to do with using social channels and by creating material post-event for social channels. But I think all too often it's an area that's overlooked because, again, so much energy goes into the before and the during that, by the time, post-event is in play, the events team is moving on to the next thing.
Yeah. And it's funny because when they go to try to showcase, well, hey, guess what happened the 20 days after the event? Mm-hmm. Even the executives sometimes are, yeah, that's great news, but don't we have another event that's up in 5 days or?
Right. And practically speaking, there's oftentimes, videos are created, obviously slideware, really a lot of time and energy is created and spent and investment prepping executives for their presentations. So why not curate the best of that and continue to build interest and sustain interest and build visibility and amplify the effect that it had. Hopefully that also helps to keep the audience interested for the next, event that a company has,
So,
right? As
Karla,
opposed to a beginning and an end, an ongoing kind of effort to support
yeah.
in social channels.
Yeah, and Karla, we're talking about content, right? Creating the right content, for your social media event support. What about, and from a content perspective, getting us? I'm asking you this, putting a schedule together of the people that you would like to maybe interview, and what I mean by that is creating short videos or vignettes of content. Say, an executive from your company, a partner, 2 or 3
Right.
customers, and getting that calendar set up 3-4 weeks out. So you're setting up these appointments and a schedule. So you already know ahead of time that you're going to get these 5 interviews or these 5, even just short 25-second videos to share and distribute on social media.
Right. So on site at an event, we really advocate and encourage our clients to think like a newsroom, right? Think like a reporter, or engage your team or whatever social support team you have to really think strategically about what you want to capture on the floor at the event, both in terms of interviews or anecdotes or video clips that you can use to, again, create enthusiasm, interest, distribution, awareness, basically, mind share, so you can be trending on Twitter, during your big event.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's the art of Sun Tzu, right? Every battle is won before it's ever fought. So you're saying, let's get organized and win this battle 20, 30 days before the event even starts.
I think that's the goal. And the bigger the event, the more advanced planning is necessary, right?
That's great. So you talked about,
if you're trying to attract Go ahead.
So you shared some best practices with us. What are 1 or 2 things that you've seen, and you don't need to name the clients' names, but what are 1 or 2 things that you've seen that are just a big bomb that we can learn from, maybe? What not to do?
Yeah. I think what not to do is pre-event just throw out stuff. Sign up, sign up, sign up, sign up. We're doing this, we're going here. It's about demonstrating value, right? So again, the devil is in the details. Of course, you want to use social channels to drum up interest, enthusiasm, and hopefully drive registrations, but do so in a compelling and strategic way, not in a let me, bludgeon you over the head with a reminder as to why our event is coming up, in 2 weeks, and you need to, the early bird discount expires in 10 days, right? That's not the value prop.
Yeah, you need to work with a lot of different companies to help get rid of that. I appreciate it.
Honestly, I think all of us need to remind ourselves of that. And, anyone who says they're not guilty of that at some point is probably not being honest with themselves. And it's a super basic point to remember, but I think it makes a big difference when you can do your best to avoid that approach.
Well, I appreciate some of the best practices. I appreciate the tips on what not to do, Karla. So, Karla Spormann, founder and CEO of Tindo Communications, how can our audience connect with you or stay connected so we can continue this conversation with you? Can you give us your Twitter handle and maybe your email address?
Sure. You can reach me on Twitter at TendoKS, or my email address, karlas@tendocom.com. Reach out to me anytime.
And that's
Karla with a K.
Karla with a K, S. Mm-hmm. Perfect.
At tendocom.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and your best practices with us, Karla.
That's it for this episode of Marketing MASH. You can share your thoughts by following us on Twitter and Facebook. Subscribe to our podcast to keep up with the show. And of course, you can always find us by visiting themarketingscope.com.